Hey y'all, it's Ryan, and I am so excited to have Jasmin Brooks as a guest today to talk more about her path to and through graduate school, as well as her motivations for her research. She'll touch on the benefits and the drawbacks of going straight to graduate school from an undergraduate program, as well as what the review process was like for getting her master's thesis published. She also gives some great advice on how to actually find the balance between research and living your life as a graduate student, which I know I need. So let's hear from Jasmin now.
Hi everyone, this is Jasmin Brooks again, and thank you to those who watched part 1 of this series, where I discuss the findings and implications of my master's thesis entitled Capability for Suicide, Discrimination as a Painful and Provocative Event. For this video, I wanted to discuss a little bit more about the methods behind this study, as well as the process of doing a research study, so that maybe those of you who have not had research experience, or if you are interested in learning more about what graduate school research is like, maybe this video can be informative for you. I also hope to discuss a little bit more about my interests, my graduate school experience, and some of the hurdles I've had to go through in conducting research, as well as submitting my work for publication. So, a little bit of background about me. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I finished my undergraduate education at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill with a bachelor's in psychology and sociology in 2018. I then entered my PhD program in clinical psychology at the University of Houston straight from undergrad in fall 2018. Entering my program straight from undergrad brought some benefits and challenges in my opinion. While it was a tough adjustment moving to a new state and often being the youngest person in my class, in many ways I feel like not leaving the school mindset helped me when it came to multitasking and studying efficiently. It also helped that I joined a thriving lab that was dedicated to my research interests, so I did not have to look far for potential research ideas or mentors. I believe these were key factors as to why I actually began working on my master's thesis project in the spring of my first year of graduate school. I luckily did not have to collect data for this project, but I definitely experienced some hurdles along the way.
And if you're like me, this might be a surprise, right? So as a graduate student, you can either do primary or secondary data analysis, which basically means you can collect your own data or use data that's already been collected, either by your advisor or a collaborator, or maybe that's just publicly available data. So check out the link in the description below if you're interested or just looking to find some publicly available data sets that you can use for publication in the field of psychology.
This project was my first real exposure to quantitative data analysis, so it meant a lot of YouTube videos and finding resources on my own. Also, I found that this paper was my first exposure to having to really explain why doing research, particularly on marginalized groups, or in examining painful and provocative events, particularly for marginalized persons, such as discrimination, why this was important. I feel like I was surrounded in my undergraduate education and graduate education with researchers who just automatically understood my commitment and dedication to doing this research because they shared it too. And so learning that tool of how to explain scientifically why my research was important was definitely a big hurdle and important step of doing this work. Also, throughout the review process, I found myself having to repeatedly explain, again, why this research was important, or how even though we included only 2 racial groups, it was still an important contribution. I noticed that I received a lot of questions on how this research is generalizable, despite the fact that people from what we call weird societies or Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, despite how they represent as much as 80% of study participants, I was still being asked, is this generalizable? Is this important? Is it because it didn't fit that box? I guess I won't know, right?
And what Jasmin mentions here is really important because in graduate school, we're often getting more and more specific with our research interests, right? Which might mean that some people don't quite recognize why we're specifically interested or think that one effect is really worth studying, right? So this might be benign. Like in my case, sometimes people just don't recognize that the death of a loved one is such a psychologically salient event that's really worth studying, in my opinion. But other times it might signal more pernicious biases from people in the review process. like questioning the generalizability of findings that are focused on certain groups, but accepting the default biases in psychological samples on the whole.
It was just eye-opening to me, the bias that still occurs in academia and research. And again, I feel like this was my first real exposure to that. However, with this being said, there was still so much excitement surrounding this study. This paper was recently awarded the Morton M. Silverman Award by the American Association of Suicidology for a paper written by a student on a topic directly related to the field of suicidology. I also was able to demonstrate how discrimination is related to the capability to take your own life for Black Americans. This is so powerful, particularly given the continued presence of discrimination towards Black Americans that is present in our society today, and particularly given the events of 2020 and the recent increase in national attention to the consequences of discrimination for Black people. I believe this is an excellent foundation for future research to explore additional consequences of discrimination for Black people, perhaps using longer measures, additional samples, or qualitative methods. Also, I feel like this is a very important call to find solutions for the effects of discrimination, particularly for Black people. We know the devastating effects. Let's work together to discover how we can find ways to promote healing and psychological well-being for Black people. With all this being said, I want listeners to take away today the beauty in being a clinical psychologist and researcher. I know some of what I said today might have sounded intimidating, such as entering graduate school straight from undergrad or starting my thesis in year one, but I want people to know that I had and still do have so much fun along the way. In my program, I have made lifelong friends. I still enjoy weekly happy hours with my girlfriends and long road trips with my partner to explore Texas and other parts of the country. Too often, people think that graduate school encompasses your entire life, but that does not have to be the reality. You all have the power to write your own story in graduate school. You all have the power to enforce work-life balance boundaries. And for anyone struggling with doing that, I encourage you to ask yourself, what do you want your legacy to be? Yes, many of us, including myself, strive to empower our communities and lead novel and innovative research, but not at the expense of our own well-being. So, on that note, I look forward to hearing all about everyone's legacy who's listening, and I look forward to seeing how you all choose to write your story for graduate school and beyond. Thank you for having me.
All right, y'all, that's all for today. Thanks for stopping by, and a huge thanks to Jasmin for sharing her journey as well as her advice. I know that we all really appreciate hearing it, so you can click like, subscribe, and of course share with your friends to support this channel. And I'll see you next time.